January the 1st, the first day of the new year, a new year full of promise. It was one of those bright, sparkling kind of days we get in the height of our Australian summer. And on that warm, shimmering afternoon, I stood knee-deep in the shallow water of an Adelaide beach. Wearing just my swimsuit, I adored the feeling of sunshine on my skin. My hair fell softly onto my shoulders and down my back. A gust of wind blew it across my face, and absentmindedly, I brushed it away. I'd like to invite you to close your eyes just for a moment and imagine yourself standing there beside me on that beach. You can feel the sand between your toes. You're startled by the splash of cold water on your sun-warmed skin. You can hear children playing nearby, giggling hysterically as they leap over little waves. And if you'd happen to glance over at me on that bright summer afternoon, you would have seen a woman with the unmistakable air of deep contentment, of peace resting on her face. Because that moment, that exact moment, was a dream come true for me. In all my life, I have never been happier. I am single, I am free, and I am a woman. And as a woman, I get to live a life of colour and connection, of beauty and joy, of richness and nuance. I inhabit the trusted and trusting world of intuition, subtlety and understanding that exists just between women. I adore the love, friendship and support of women. And I'm overjoyed that it is my world and I am welcomed into it too, because you see, for me, it wasn't always this way. I was born in the Royal North Shore Hospital in Sydney on the 22nd of July, 1959, and when I was born, the doctors held me up triumphantly and exclaimed, "It's a boy!" And so I was identified male at birth, and despite growing doubts, deep questioning and significant challenges through my life, remained that way until May 2019, when at the age of 59, I transitioned to become the woman I was always meant to be. Finally, as a woman, my life makes sense. As a woman, at last, I get to be comfortable in my own skin. But on the day I was born, the doctors got it wrong. But how could they have known? I am a trans woman, but I didn't know myself for the next 50 years. Looking back, I see a life peppered with clues, so many clues which showed up in my behaviours and preferences. But I didn't know that back then that being trans could be a thing for me. There were no role models of possibility in my life. Had there been, I might have tweaked sooner. But there weren't, and so I had to work it all out for myself. I didn't choose to be trans, but I did choose to listen to my growing sense of dysphoria when I started feeling differently about my body and who I was in the world. It started gradually. Firstly, a quiet little voice whispering in my ear, almost imperceptible to start with, but growing and growing in intensity until at last it became a fully formed thought that wouldn't go away. I should have been born a girl. I was living and working in London at the time, far from the streets of Adelaide where I grew up, when I started feeling more feminine in my body, conscious about how I walked, how I sat, how I held myself. I started to change, beginning little by little with a few items of clothing and getting rid of hair, But mainly what was changing was inside of me and how I felt about myself. Coming back to Australia in 2013 with my family was awful. I came back to prosper, but instead my marriage and family disintegrated. Lonely and alone in my own home, struggling with depression, trying to make ends meet with jobs I hated and a body I despised. I felt a massive sense of failure. At this lowest of low points in my life, my marriage failing, my children unreachable, my dysphoria continued to grow until it came to the point where I knew I had to reach out and seek medical help. So I made an appointment to see a doctor. Sitting in his surgery, I summoned all my courage and was finally able to blurt out, "I want to be more feminine in my body." His response? He said that when people came to him asking about such things, they already knew what they wanted, like what specialists they want. And maybe I should try cross-dressing. I was just beginning my journey. I didn't know any of those things, but cross-dressing, I felt completely misunderstood. Cross-dressing was never going to be a thing for me. And so I stumbled out of his surgery into the bright light of day, feeling insulted, embarrassed, and ashamed. It had taken all my courage to express my aspiration, but that experience caused me to retreat into hiding for the next 3.5 years. 1,278 days becoming more and more dysphoric. 1,278 days as dresses, shapewear, bras and bikinis filled my closet. 1,278 days before I once again was able to summon the courage to open myself up to another doctor, to Tanya, because my feelings had not gone away. In stark contrast to my experience of 3.5 years prior, Tanya didn't insult me, embarrass me, or shame me. Instead, with her, I felt affirmed, validated, and supported. Tanya was one of the gorgeous souls who were to surprise me on my journey with their love, their warmth and kindness. And I want to challenge us all tonight to be a little bit more like her, because it made the world of difference. The sense of being emotionally held, of being safe, of seeming normal, was life-changing to me as I sat in her surgery and cried and cried and cried. But I still didn't know what I wanted. I had no idea I could ever be this woman you see before you tonight. But that's okay. Sometimes when we set out on a journey, we don't know the destination. We just have to set out and trust that if we keep stepping, the path will appear before us. We are all transitioning as we go through life. The person we were yesterday is not the same as the person we'll be tomorrow. But we get to choose. We get to choose whether to let tomorrow happen and accept what it brings us, or we can be intentional and choose the tomorrow we want to live. I didn't know where I was going on my journey, but I did know I was no longer prepared to accept my life's condition. I knew I wanted to change, so I kept stepping, moving forward, following my heart, searching for my truth. And for me, that is what life is about. I want to know What do I really want to do? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And finding the answers to that questions is the journey. And like any journey, it's going to be full of surprises and challenges and setbacks and excitement, because finding my truth has been and is exciting. But it hasn't been without consequence. I lost my marriage, my family, friends, and dreams I once had. I faced fear, shame, embarrassment, and humiliation. It took courage to step out into the world as a woman. It took courage to reinvent my whole identity in such a short space of time. It took courage and determination to find my truth. And it was that determination that kept me stepping forward into a tomorrow that I chose and led me to that beach on that warm summer's afternoon, wearing just my swimsuit, with my hair falling softly on my shoulders and down my back. I wish it hadn't taken me 59 years to find myself. But as it did, was it worth it? Absolutely, because now I get to live the rest of my one life as a woman I was always meant to be, living my truth.